So first of all, my name's Miah. I'm a professional fighter and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Along the way I've sort of done an undergrad in sports therapy, and I'm currently doing a master's degree in strength and conditioning in my final year, so that should be finished in the coming years. Business-wise, I've kind of been all over, from training sort of like Gen Pop to the pro athlete over the past decade while I've been competing, sort of focused on some problems that I believe that are in like the industry. One of those which was like a grassroots program for mixed martial arts. So I look at other sports and I work with colleagues at university who work in grassroots of whether it's like GB judo, whether it's boxing, wrestling, whatever it may be, and they have an organised structure of the training from grassroots right the way up to either Olympic level or professional, depending on the sport. We don't have anything like that, or we didn't have anything like that in mixed martial arts, and certainly in Birmingham. So I know the EMMA have come along in England, and the IMMAF are producing like amateur competition right the way up to World Championships, which would be the equivalent of our kind of Olympics now for amateurs. And sort of I wanted to have sort of a grassroots level project in Birmingham, in Solihull, which is my hometown. So what we're trying to do is build guys from scratch to take them to the top of the amateur level, and then they can kind of make a decision whether they wanted to turn over pro, similar to how boxing runs. We're based at Combat Sports Centre in Solihull, which is an amateur boxing club, and a Wacko kickboxing club, which is like amateur kickboxing. And if you look at how the amateur boxing system works, guys get to a certain level and then maybe they make GB or they box internationally, or they win a national title, and then they turn over pro, and then it's the chance to have a professional prize fighting career. Whereas MMA, it's always been a little bit backward, where people just go, I'm just going pro now, and they might not even have the talent to go pro, number one, or the infrastructure isn't in place to stop them going pro. There's no like board of directors or anything. So I wanted to give people a real chance to hone their skill set as an amateur, and then make decisions in the future whether they wanted to become professional or turn it into a career. And you can find a lot about yourself on the way with a proper robust amateur career. So that was something I never had, and there wasn't really many MMA coaches in Birmingham. There still isn't. There's a lot of people who maybe they were a jiu-jitsu coach or a wrestling coach or a Thai boxing coach, but my generation of MMA fighters still are not quite retired in the city. So we have some fantastic coaches that are going to come through, people like Tom Breeze, Yannick Bahati, Leon Edwards, but they're still chasing their own dreams and their own career as well, as I am myself. But I've sort of took a step back over the past year to kind of be that person for a lot of the guys that I'm coaching now, that I never had in terms of an MMA coach who wants to be a coach. So that's kind of the void I'm trying to fill. I never kind of had that MMA coach who was always like dotted around. I used to go and travel to London to get that off a UFC fighter, Brad Pickett, but there was never that kind of attention to care in the city, because we're all so selfish in our own pursuits. So I wanted to try and be that for the guys that are coming up now in my local area. And then another massive hole that I've just found in sort of the industry was strength and conditioning in sort of combat sports, in particular like mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which are still not like recognised Olympic or professional sports in a lot of ways. If you look at, like I said, Team GB, judo, boxing, taekwondo, they have accredited S&C coaches designated to the top athletes. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, we're still very much like all self-funded. So it presents a problem of that anyone can just work with the athletes in the private sector, and then you kind of get two problems. You get a lot of charlatans, and then you also get the good coaches. You know, it's very hard to afford for an amateur fighter or even a good level professional in mixed martial arts. You know, I know numerous Bellator, Cage Warriors fighters, even UFC fighters, they can't afford to drop what it costs to have in-person strength and conditioning without prior sponsorship, maybe with a backer or something. So I wanted to create an affordable product that I can deliver like world-class strength and conditioning to fighters at a reasonable price with remote coaching, so everyone wins and they can have that good level programming that the elites have got, that means that the gap doesn't get bigger between the elites and the guys chasing them, because that's kind of the problem that I see that happens, is that the best guys in the world either get free sponsorship to endorse the name off the S&C coach, or they have the money to be able to pay a really good coach, and then the guys chasing them don't have the money, they don't have the sponsorship because they don't have the name, and then they're kind of stuck where not only are they not as good as these guys, but they're chasing them, and they're chasing them without the tools that the best guys have got. So I wanted to kind of create an environment where we can help guys from the grassroots and even like established pros that can't maybe afford full correspondence S&C, where we can have a remote program. And then I do in-person coaching as well. which is a little bit more expensive, which is why guys tend to have like sponsorship backing off a backer, or they really are at the top of the sport and they can afford to pay what they pay for elite strength and conditioning. So those were obviously like the two big things that for me as an upcoming athlete were quite a struggle, like having that kind of head MMA coach or grassroots MMA setup that we can develop in. And then also like strength and conditioning, rather than clutching and listening to like your Joe Rogan podcast and trying to make notes off just quackery, like we actually can deliver a really good product to upcoming fighters and help them on their journey really.